there, slashers. It's your boy Running Man, the horror himbo, here to speak once again on my favorite subject, horror movies. I'm joined by my gorgeous and talented co-host, Giza Britanniza. Say hello, Giza Britanniza.
Hi, Giza Britanniza.
Anyways, so we're back. We're getting really positive reception to the 2024 horror movie tier list. Thank you to those who watched and commented, came by the Twitch streams and said thank you, stopped by her place of work and said thank you. The police are still investigating, trying to figure out who that was. But overall, great reception. Had a lot of fun with the list. And now we're ready to get into flow state. It's January. It's the mid-month point of January. Recording on January 16th, going live on January 17th. We're going to talk about the mid-month wrap-up. Going to be some good stuff in here. Brand new stuff. We watched one movie thinking it came out in January. It actually just came to streaming in January, but we're not wasting the time, right? We're going to talk about it because it was
great.
It was good.
And it was released on streaming services in January. So it's not like completely out of nowhere.
Yeah, technicality, right? It's a January movie, but it did release last year. But again, I think you guys are going to like hearing about this one. If you've seen it, you'll probably agree that it was a very fun time. And if you haven't seen it, we're going to push you to see it. So, all right. So let's get right into it, with the first movie we watched of the new year. The lady and I took the children and we saw The Damned. Take us away. Don't you usually tell us about the movie?
Yeah. So The Damned was released January 3rd of 2025. I think we saw it opening night.
We did, yeah.
Like the Friday it was released.
First on the phone.
R-rated horror film, an hour and 29 minutes, so it's a shorty. It's a limited release, so not every theater is going to have it. Not a theatrical release, just limited one. Luckily, because we live in like the big city, we were able to see it, no problem. So
yeah, one thing I do, I'm gonna just squeeze in a little aside here though. Yeah. We get a lot of these limited releases, but her and I have both been kind of commenting on how they're not very well trafficked, and so we're kind of like worried that they're not gonna get them. We'll talk about this more later, but I think The Damned actually did have a decent crowd though.
It was
like
okay.
It was not bad.
It was like 10 people.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the sad thing.
But 4 of them were us.
The sad thing is that a 10 piece is like, hey man, not bad, but like because we saw one last night with one other person in the theater. So
yeah,
we're hoping that the limited release,
which is a banger movie.
Yeah,
so.
well, I cannot wait to talk about it. But all right, so we saw The Damned, like you said, opening night, little crowd. I'll just give my thoughts and then you give your thoughts, or do you want to go first? Like, what do you think?
Do you want to talk about what the movie's about?
Yeah, I think that's your department. I mean, we can give a brief synopsis. It's a fishing village somewhere in like the Norway area or like something like that. Norway, Sweden, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's in Europe.
It was a couple that like ran the fishing crew, and then in one of the previous fishing trips, the husband actually died. So now it's all left to the wife to handle everything now. Right.
Yeah. And so she's like running a ragtag group of classic sailors, and
Iceland.
Thank you.
Icelandic fishing village.
Icelandic fishing village. Yeah. So one thing that jumped out at me right out of the gate is it stars one of the prominent actors of Game of Thrones, the guy who played the Hound in Game of Thrones. So I immediately jumped out of my seat with excitement because I was a big Game of Thrones fan. And he slayed as per the usual. But anyways, so I'm getting off topic.
I think it was funny. He was the only actor in that movie that had to us any like bearing. Like we did not recognize anybody else, and he's not even listed as like one of the top actors.
Yeah, he wasn't billed, but he ended up being...
I wonder if he just did this because he like liked the story and he's like, yeah, I'll hop in a little bit.
Yeah, I hope so, because it was good to see him. I'd like to see him again. But so essentially Icelandic fishing village, without spoiling anything, they get themselves into some trouble with some potential Icelandic entities of the supernatural variety. And a lot of hijinks ensue.
Yeah.
It started off very strong. The cinematography, I'll give this throughout the whole film. The cinematography is great. I had a big smile on my face. Like it started, like I said, started strong. I'm from Alaska. I grew up in the frigid north. I grew up fishing in the winter. So like to me, it was a little like, ooh, this feels like kind of like home. This is cool. And but I will say that it sort of it's like slow burn kind of disappointed me, I guess. Like it started off strong. I love the universe they were crafting. The cinematography was great. The acting was great. Story-wise, sort of dragged, and then I did not think that the ending landed for me. So
yeah, it's so funny. It starts off so strong, such a banger. with the setting, like getting you invested in this fishing crew, getting you like, and for me, the atmosphere of it just being so freaking cold.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I'm so cold, but I'm not cold. Like it's very cool. The snow and the ice is very cool. And then it just kind of drops off.
Yeah, I think at one point I leaned over to her and mentioned, I was like, the ending either saves this or sloths.
Yeah, you
like,
did.
It's either gonna be great because of the ending, or it's gonna flop because of the ending. And unfortunately, the ending didn't land, which makes it feel to me like kind of a mid-tier film. I think I told her that it feels like a Shudder original.
Yeah.
Like this is something that if I had watched it on a Friday evening, popped it on Shudder, I'd be like, solid flick. It really hit on that level. It didn't hit like a movie theater, like an event, I guess. Like
which
it just
makes
really,
sense with it being a limited release.
Yeah. So again, I don't want to poo-poo on it. Like
No,
it was
not a
good.
bad movie.
It was. I'm not the type to really, even if a movie sucks, I'm glad I saw it, because I always look at it like I would have wanted to see it.
Well, the next movie.
Okay. I think sometimes you'll say a thing and then immediately contradict what you actually think. So we'll get to it. Okay.
We'll get there.
99.99 repeating, of course, percent of the time. I'm glad that I saw it, and I would have wanted to see it, even if it was bad.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe that even applies to the next one. But with The Damned, genuinely, I'm not disappointed I saw it. I wish I would have waited for streaming. I don't think I wanted to spend $15 to see it. But
for 4 people.
Yeah, we brought the family too.
So,
yeah, so it was
like, I think we should maybe kind of focus on if a movie's worth watching or not watching, which is kind of like how Rotten Tomatoes is. Like, either you need to see this or you don't need to see it. And I think you don't need to see this movie in theaters. I think it's worth a watch when it comes to streaming services.
Definitely.
And I would like to rewatch it. Just see if I have like a different take on it.
That's crazy, because I don't normally want to rewatch movies either, but I would absolutely rewatch it again knowing how it ended. I did read some stuff on Reddit about it and some stuff on Twitter, because that's what I do. And there were some people that were really in its corner, really backed it. Like really, really liked it, really vouched it. And then there were some theories. I wanted it to win. There were some theories on the ending that I felt like were kind of a stretch, but if that's true, then I actually can see it and be like, okay, yeah, maybe better than I thought. But
tell me about
I will, I can tell you about that. But so I think overall ratings wise on Letterboxd, I gave it a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. I went 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
So again, not bad.
And also tracking with, like, I tend to overrate stuff a little bit. So like I'm like, I'll give it a 3.
All my ratings will be like 2 to 4. Yeah. I'll never do a 1 or a 5.
I'm usually in the 3 to 4 range on most things. But that's not a bad thing.
No.
I like things.
You're hopeful.
I'm hopeful. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I deserve that. All right, so that was The Damned. Coming up hot in the second spot. Okay, so I honestly feel like even speaking on this is more than it deserves. But this is a film called The Monster Beneath Us, which was we watched it streaming on Amazon Prime. We paid $6.99 US cents. On this film.
So it was released on January 3rd, straight to streaming service. Not even streaming services. Like I think it's only on Prime or probably Apple TV to rent. So you have to actually pay to watch it.
So straight to pay us to watch it. Right? Yeah, give us money for this.
So it's 1800s Yorkshire. So it's a foreign film.
Yeah.
Classy.
Yeah.
So it's about a woman and her son who go and move into the home. I don't know why, actually, now that I remember. The husband was living at the home by himself. I don't know if he was like getting it ready for them and then they were going to come and join him. I don't feel like this is a spoiler because it's literally in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
I think at some point she says something to the effect of, that was like when she was doing some mother-in-law beef, it was like, you left him to be there by himself. Like maybe she didn't want to go.
Oh, I remember what happened now.
Okay. Is it a spoiler?
It's towards the end of the movie now.
Okay.
He's at the home by himself. Yeah. There's a monster in the basement. This is not spoiling. The monster's on the movie poster. Like that's really it.
Also, they reveal the monster almost immediately.
Yeah,
like within
so you see him full force.
Within minutes of the film beginning, the big surprise reveal of the monster is done. I don't think we need to. It's one of the very worst films I've ever seen. Like, and
there's
again,
a reason it went straight to just go pay to watch
the
it.
Audacity,
I don't know who's gonna pay to watch it.
The audacity of them charging money for this film. This is the kind of movie that and you guys, you'll get to know me. I'm an apologist. I like the worst stuff. I told someone I was seeing Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, and his response was, "You love those shitty movies, man. You're gonna have a great time." This movie, I would beg you not to watch it for free.
Yeah.
Don't watch it for free.
I would not rewatch it.
It's not worth the time investment. The 90 minutes of your life you could spend doing. I cannot think of a worse way to spend 90 minutes of your life.
Doug fell asleep like 3 times.
3. At least.
And I almost fell asleep.
We started at like 7 p.m., man. And
it was not enough for him to be falling asleep.
It couldn't keep me.
But it wasn't
invested.
great.
It was so bad.
I actually rated it 1 out of 5.
Yeah, the acting was abysmal. I give it a half star. I rated it lower than she did. I give it a half star.
I didn't know you could do a half star.
The acting was the acting was abysmal. It made no sense. The setting felt like it was done literally just because it would be easy. The monster was horrible and immediately revealed. There was no investment in any character. There was no backstory that made sense. The ending flopped completely. It was just, and I'm a big anti-predictable guy, but it was everything. There's not a surprise, not even a sniff of a surprise. Every word that was said, you expected to be said next. It was just, there is no redeeming quality. Mm-hmm. There was one character, the house caretaker lady was like, I liked her. It's like ASMR wise, I thought she had a pleasing voice. Yeah. She had a nice accent.
I liked only one character that was in it for like 5 minutes. It was the brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, I wouldn't watch it for free. I don't know if I'd probably watch it if someone paid me, but I wouldn't watch it.
It would cost though. I wouldn't watch it for a low, like an hour and a half is valuable with how many movies come out and how many games come out and how many like comic books and books come out. There's just so many other ways to spend your time. Yeah. Like someone would have to, this is like some $80 an hour type commitment. Like it's that bad. Again, half a star. Would beg you not to see it. It's not even bad, like so bad it's good. It's not a fun bad watch. Mm-mm. It's an abysmal slog.
It's like people that never made a movie made their first movie.
And it's like every aspect. And I feel so sorry for every person that was involved because this will be on their career's record forever.
I think maybe you just leave out that job.
Yeah, you just leave it off your resume.
I just wouldn't put it on my resume.
Addition by subtraction, yeah. Anyways, The Monster Beneath Us, $6.99.
It is beneath us.
I would ask for a refund and feel justified in that. It was that bad. Okay. I didn't give it a 0.
I didn't know you could do 1/2.
I think I would give it a 0 if it offended me. It didn't offend me. It was just bad.
I think the only redeeming factor is I liked the concept of the story. It just wasn't it just wasn't executed well.
0 execution. All right. So anyways, enough of that. Next film, which was talk about a yo-yo back up.
Yes. So this movie did not technically release in January. It came out December 6th. I think it was a theatrical release. I don't remember it being in theaters, but we had a lot going on in December. Mm-hmm. But it was released to Shudder on January 10th. It's an R-rated film, 1 hour, 26 minutes.
Outstanding film. So
good.
Right off the rip. And again, remember that we watched The Monster Beneath Us before this. And we've gotten excited about the Slashily Ever After podcast. We got plans to try and we're gonna try and watch it. We're gonna try and watch every horror movie that comes out this year. Like we may not be able to make it because a lot of stuff comes out. We both work full time. We have a lot of other kids that we have to handle. We have other hobbies. We have cats, which you guys will see them. But overall, we're gonna try our best to see it all. And to this, I had never heard of Getaway. I knew nothing about it. And so right out of the gate, I was like, ugh. Man, it's gonna be a long 2025, man. Because we're gonna have to see a lot of bad movies. Because a lot of bad horror movies get made.
So very quickly, family's vacation to remote getaway takes an unexpected turn when they discover the island there is inhabited by a serial killer.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah. So again, the film is outstanding, and the thing is, like, one of my pet peeves is when people are like, "Go in blind, go in blind."
Go in blind.
You should go in blind. Don't stress yourself out about going in blind, but go in blind. Because I worry that sometimes when you push people to go in blind, they like think too hard and try and solve things. And it's like just go in blind. It's got a great twist. And
it's got that one guy from that one movie.
Yeah, I forget his name. If you could find it for me. Is the guy from Shaun of the Dead. You'll learn about me is I'm very poor with names. Nick Frost. And he was also involved in the writing and creative process. Like it's got his fingers all over.
He wrote it.
He wrote the whole film. Yeah, okay, I didn't know he wrote the whole film.
Yeah, writer.
So I knew he was involved with him and the director.
That makes sense.
Did like an outtakes reel where they were talking on Shudder. Shudder original. hilarious, laugh out loud funny from the rip. Like the moment the movie starts, you can feel Nick Frost's like personality just oozing all over it. It's the dialogue. Like we were watching it and we were 10 minutes in and I was like laughing out loud so often. She was like, "You're really loving this. I love that you're loving this so much." But and that was nothing that I could point to was that funny happened. It was just the family's little banal dialogue and the cinematography and the silly supporting cast. It was just, it's a phenomenal comedy horror. It's a comedy horror. It never stops being funny. It never drags. It's got a great twist. It's got great violence. It's just, it does exactly what you want out of a horror comedy. And again, there aren't a lot of really good horror comedies. Like, you know, the Tucker and Dale versus Evil is kind of one of a kind in that way, right? That it's just like a phenomenal film that happens to be a horror comedy. Chucky movies, really, really are some of the greatest horror comedy we've seen. Mm-hmm. This movie smashes a grand slam in the horror comedy category. You will not stop laughing. I guarantee it's got great rewatchability, laugh out loud moments, and just can't say enough good things about it.
And if you say that you predicted the ending, you're lying, because there's no way you would predict the ending.
Yeah, so
just don't even try it.
Don't even try it. See, that's what you just did exactly what I said you shouldn't do. Like now people are going to try and figure out the ending.
Oh, sorry.
You know, overthink it. Anyways.
My bad.
No, it's fine. I forgive you. Just hope that the rest of the community can. All right, so Getaway was a banger, and then we checked out George A. Romero's Resident Evil.
A documentary. Yeah. So it came out on my birthday, actually, January 7th. It's an hour, 50 minutes. It felt longer.
It felt really long, but we were watching
it in a good way.
We watched it on a work night, and we started it late, so it felt a little longer, but it wasn't like it was dragging. It was just like, there was a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. It's $49 on Prime, so you do have to rent it. Worth it, I think. I think
if you are a fan of Resident Evil, even if you're a casual fan, especially if you're a casual, you like Resident Evil, but you're not like, I've read every piece of Resident Evil media that's ever come out. You will love this film, and because it's a very niche documentary. It's really, really dives in to a small chunk of the Resident Evil history. It goes a little before and a little after. It gives you a brief breakdown of like the pre-Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 universe, but it kind of stays in that time frame where Resident Evil first blew up and first became like a worldwide phenomenon. And then it stays within like the Resident Evil 2 release window when the Resident Evil movie was first pitched and agreed to. So TLDR, if you're a casual Resident Evil fan, you probably know that at one point, George A. Romero, who is the father of modern zombies, he was the Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead godfather. He was hired to write and direct the Resident Evil film adaptation, right? And then fast forward to today, that never happened. And this film kind of digs into trying to answer why, kind of doing like some thinking about what would have happened had George A. Romero gotten his hands on it and got a chance to do it. Because what I learned from the documentary is that George A. Romero actually directed and wrote the television ad for Resident Evil 2 when it was coming out, which was extremely well received. And it's like, ooh, we can only imagine what it would have been like. But yeah,
it was a movie.
It's a great film. I'm a sucker for a documentary of any kind. Like I'm just a nerd like that. Like I can sit down and watch a documentary about farming or a documentary about car parts, and it'll like keep learning. It'll keep me engaged. Yeah. But if it's on a subject I'm interested in, which is like zombies and horror movies and Resident Evil, like sign me up. And I would consider myself to be more of a casual Resident Evil fan, not because I don't love it. I grew up on it when I was a younger kid. I was in high school when Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil Code Veronica all came out. And then when I graduated and went off to live life, I kind of fell off for Resident Evil 4. Never played it, still never played it. And then I came back for Resident Evil 5, and that was my last Resident Evil game. So again, it was a huge part of my gaming like youth, but I'm not a diehard know-it-all Resident Evil guy. So for me, this was like a perfect documentary.
Yeah, I think it was maybe kind of targeted more towards you.
Yeah.
It's funny, I would have considered myself a casual fan, but I guess I'm just a passing fan because I've never played any of the games. I've watched multiple playthroughs of 6 Village and then the one with the daughter. I came after that.
Yeah.
Rose, you haven't watched it.
No.
Or played it. And then I remember the Resident Evil movies that came out, and I think I saw the first one when it first came out. It was fine, but it appealed to me more in like the filmmaking aspect.
For
personally.
sure, yeah. Well, and also I've seen every Resident Evil film. I'm a huge apologist for Welcome to Raccoon City, which came out in 2021. Loved it, and that is not a popular take. I love the Resident Evil Netflix series, not because I thought it was good. I thought it was dreadful, but it's very funny and very like easy watch, and I crave more and will never get it because it was terrible. But yeah, so but the thing is, I think the thing is for Resident Evil, like we're talking about a game that's a horror game, and Resident Evil 8 shipped, from what I understand, I think it shipped 10 million copies. Like that's not niche. That's a mainstream license. So I think that hardcore diehard Resident Evil fans are like insane. I would consider myself more casual, or maybe even like if we really want to break it down, like I'm kind of like a big fan. I'd say you're like a casual fan. I'm a big fan. I played over half the games.
You're a big fan, not a super fan.
Yeah, I played half the games. I've seen all the movies. I've seen the show, but I haven't like read all the Reddit threads about every sub story and every sub character. You know, like there's some people that like live and breathe Resident Evil, but I would consider myself a big fan, but not like a massive. I would love to become a massive fan. I think I'm gonna one of my 2025, one of my bucket list items for this year, one of my New Year's resolutions is to complete every Resident Evil game. Starting with 0 all the way through 8. And record it for my YouTube. You guys are on my YouTube right now, probably.
Unless you're audio only listeners.
And if you're audio only, go check out the YouTube. Like I gotta feed these cats. Yep. So yeah. Anyways, all that to say, I rated it very high, 3.5 stars on Letterboxd, and I encouraged people to watch it. Again, what I've gathered from reading other reviews on Letterboxd, I'm kind of addicted to reading other people's reviews now, but what I've gathered is that if you're a massive fan, like a crazy Resident Evil fan, there's nothing new here. But if you're a casual fan, then check it out. It's all like publicly available information. Like Reddit could tell you everything the documentary did, but
yeah,
this is fun though. And there was some like, one thing that's cool, kind of spoilers, but they have some footage from like a failed Resident Evil 1 movie that like does follow the characters from the movie, so Jill and Chris and the dog, and like they have some clips from that film that are just like really bad. It's very funny, and I really enjoyed watching that. But anyways, solid documentary.
I didn't rate it. I didn't feel like I was allowed to rate it.
Why?
I like just because I'm not a super huge Resident Evil fan.
Yeah, but you're valid though. Like,
I don't know what I would even
casual fans just
rate it like a 2.
Yeah, give it a 2 and be like, I liked it. It was fun.
I did like it.
It was good. But R.I.P. George A. Romero, by the way. Another thing that this did for us is we had the conversation. We want to go through and watch all of Romero's zombie films.
Yeah.
So
we already had the first one on our list. I didn't realize there were like 5.
Yeah.
There was just 2.
We'll do that and we'll do a whole episode about Romero.
I love that.
And we'll celebrate George A. Romero. So
sounds great.
Stay tuned for that. So after Resident Evil, George A. Romero's documentary A, we saw the main event of the podcast, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Welcome back to the Pooniverse. All right, this one came out in a limited release January 13th, 14th, and 15th. If you paid attention closely to the tier list, you heard how much I enjoyed Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Pooh, right? Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey too. But I also am a huge fan of the original Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And I've been feverishly waiting on Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. We're also going to get the Bambi, The Awakening, I think, this year. And the Pinocchio.
Reckoning?
The Bambi, The Reckoning. Thank you. And Pinocchio. I forgot what the subtitle is there. But
they're so great.
We have Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare is the first Pooniverse movie that dropped this year. And limited release January 13th through 15th.
Which is funny because we had it at our theater, which was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I feel like these would do better if they were limited releases on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, even.
Yeah, weekend
but I
releases
guess it's harder
sense.
to pay for the theater space for that.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
to compete. But there's another theater. How far do you say that would be?
Bremerton, Washington is across the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. So that's a haul for us. From Seattle area all the way down and around. We can take a ferry.
Which again, we watched it, so we don't have to do that. But it's also playing past that. So I think the first night is tonight, and it's playing over the weekend. Yeah,
so I will tell you this much. This was the one we alluded to at the beginning of the episode. We went last night. It was a Wednesday night, at 7 p.m. There's one showing. One other dude in the theater.
Yeah.
Who I guarantee loved it. Because how could he not? But I was whispering this to her before the movie started. I was like, man, I really hope they start doing better, because if they don't do better, they might not bring these back. But I will tell you this, for the Pooniverse movies, I will do the 2-hour drive to go see it if it's on,
and
especially if it's on a weekend.
They probably do really well, like, on the internet, because I mean, we saw, even just looking at Letterboxd, there's 800 reviews on this movie. I think.
I think people, because remember, they're limited release, but it's across the country, and so I don't know, maybe Washington. I mean, Terrifier 3 wasn't sold out opening night here either. Like, I think that maybe our area might just not be like a horror hub
our theater
as
was
much.
Pretty full though.
It was decently full. It was a Friday night. But yeah, so anyways, we're talking a lot of brass tacks. Let's get into the meat. So Pooniverse is, to me, one of the more exciting horror projects of my lifetime. I'm really, really big on cheesy, campy, silly. I mean, you heard me talk about Winnie the Pooh. We got, and then we got, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare coming out. So I go into this film, and we're gonna do spoiler free at first. I think, were we gonna talk about spoilers at the end, or we do?
I think we can. It'll be like 10 minutes. Because I have questions that I need someone to answer for me.
Okay, we're gonna do spoiler free right now, and then at the end we'll do a huge spoiler warning, and then we'll talk some spoilers. So, but I will tell you, without spoiling anything, I think this is important for people to know that haven't seen it, is if you're expecting this to be campy and cheesy and like roll your eyes, no. This movie is a legitimate, thrilling. It's a horror movie.
Yeah.
It is a very violent. It is very dark. It is very scary. It is very intense. Like I don't think there was really, maybe one or two jump scares. They didn't lean on jump scares.
No.
They led on atmosphere. They leaned on tension.
No gratuitous nudity. There's no horrible prosthetics. I thought his prosthetics were great.
Yeah.
Like, it's better. I was not super excited about seeing this movie because I was like, I'll see it for Doug. I'll always see something for Doug.
Yeah.
But I was thinking how the Winnie the Pooh movies were. They're like, oh, that's great. That's cool. That's great.
You laugh, like, you cringe, you roll your eyes, and it's like, it's campy and it's fun. This had none of that.
This was so good.
I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd, and I put in my review, it gets a full star for subverting my expectations completely, because I went into a film expecting cheese and corn, and I got a fresh sirloin steak of a film. I was like, this is nuts. The acting, phenomenal. Cinematography, phenomenal. The final girl, who you've never heard of, phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
The villain, phenomenal. The sub stories, phenomenal. Every character stood a role. Not a dull moment, not a wasted moment. It's great.
It was so good.
It's just great, and it's so cool to know that this is part of the Pooniverse. And I was reading this literally just this morning. I was reading that they're trying to start filming Pooniverse the Assemble film, the mashup film this year. They want it out by Halloween this year. That's the goal.
That's very fast.
And I'm like, and what I'm saying is, like, the reason I bring it up is because when you watch this film, it's like, how are they going to tie this into that? Because it's on the poster. Neverland Nightmare is tied in, but you're like, how are they going to tie? I'm just so excited. I cannot overstate how excited I am. And we saw the film live, and I cannot wait for it to release on streaming so I can watch it again. I want to watch it again night one. And I will buy the film if it gets a 4K. If it gets a 4K Blu-ray release, Steelbook, I'll purchase. Like, this was great. This is great. And I think one thing I mentioned to her that I want to mention to you guys, if you watched Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and you watched Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, the quality increase from Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey and Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 was astronomical. Like, the first one's really bad. It's really campy. The story's really mid. The acting's really mid. The cinematography, everything's mid. It's corny as hell. The second one is still all those things, but like way better. And you're like, dang, they're starting to get it a little bit. Yeah. The jump in quality from Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 to Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare is like the jump in quality from a made-for-TV movie and then like a box office film. Like, it was just
so good.
It's like, what? This is the same guys? And they brought back, it's the same director. It's the same director as Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. It's like, you're literally live action watching people like master their craft. It's so cool. And why I get so excited about the franchise, and why I get so excited about the upcoming installments and the final installment, which is the mashup movie. Like, it's just, talk about jack me up as a horror fan, because like this right here, it's almost disappointing. Like, I almost don't see how the next one can't even be like a little bit of a letdown. I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong, because I would have said the same thing about this. Like, so it's just crazy, man. It's just 10 out of 10. I loved it.
Yeah.
Not 10 out of 10. Obviously, it's an imperfect film. I mean, we're not talking about Nosferatu or substance here. I mean, we're not rewriting social narratives here, but it was a fucking awesome movie, and I loved it. So
Yeah.
yes,
It was great.
great, just great.
Pleasantly surprised.
And I even had a little bit. Oh, by the way, another thing that I want to mention. It's definitely somewhere in between like a Rob Zombie movie and Terrifier, like in the gore and violence. Like they were brutal. It was brutal. It was bloody. It was gore. It was, but it didn't go like Terrifier 2, where it's like, look what we're doing. It was just like,
there was that one at the end. That
yeah,
was really bad.
and that was like remember when I talked to you about when evil lurks, how like I felt like they used their main event kill like early in the movie, and then everything after was tame.
Yeah.
I think that Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, they wanted the final act to be like, this is going to have the big crescendo, the violence crescendo, because it really did. And it was really bad. It was really violent. And then it was like, for like one block, like a little too violent, and then back to like being, okay, it was great. 10, like I said, for what it was, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But for what it is, 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
3.5 out of 5.
Okay, yeah.
Still so good.
From you, that's a great score.
Yeah.
On a Pooniverse movie. So
because if you told me this was not at all related to Pooniverse, I would believe you.
We had to look.
Nothing like it.
We had to look and double check and make sure we weren't mistaken. We were like, are we sure this is a Pooniverse movie, or is this just like some hidden gem? No, absolutely, this is part of the Pooniverse, because it would have tracked as like another solo project. And yeah, so at this point, I think we're going to, if you haven't seen the film, which you probably haven't, because it's limited release and like 9 people went to see it. If you haven't seen it and you're wanting to see it, and if you are going to, I highly recommend skipping this. I hate to tell you not to listen to the podcast, but you don't want this thing spoiled, because it's good. But we're going to, in 10 seconds, we're going to start talking spoilers. So now is your time to go to the bottom, go down to the description and find where we say outro, and click on the outro time frame, okay?
Or my comment.
Or your
since
comment.
They didn't pop up last time.
They're not going to pop up, I don't think, without manually doing it. So I think the comment probably works just.
Okay.
We can do the comment.
Yeah.
We can do it before we even post it. So, anyways, you should skip before this, because we're talking about random stuff. All right, 5,
gotta go.
4, 3, 2, 1. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. 1. Spoilers. Go ahead, baby.
So.
Hey, no. Spoilers! Brought to you by Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy is the official sponsor of the Slashily After podcast. Use code RunningRogue at checkout to buy all of your energy and hydration needs. Remember, if you're one of those weenies that didn't see it on opening night and you're skipping spoilers, you don't get to know about my code. Just kidding. It'll be in the description of the video. But definitely check out some Rogue Energy.
So they don't make it overtly obvious that this is going to be make-believe or real. And then the whole time, they start you off thinking it's going to be real. And I was like, I love that this is real. Like, this is true crime. Like, this is a murderer.
Yeah. And so what I love about it is I kind of had a different and more accurate vision of what the director was trying to do. So yes, they definitely were presenting it as a true crime, but they kept you guessing, like, are we sure there's no real Neverland? Are we sure this guy's just a psycho? And they kind of teased over and over again, right? Because they showed Tinkerbell with the heroin, which was the pixie dust.
So pixie dust is heroin.
Pixie dust is heroin, right? And then like consistently, Peter Pan would look at the wall and see the Peter Pan shadow, and you're like, man, is this guy just a psycho, or is he really? Is it going to be a payoff where we're going to actually? And I was rooting for there to really be a Neverland. I was rooting for it to be magical.
I was rooting for there to.
She was rooting for the opposite, which is what's so cool about it and what was so fun. And I think either way would have paid off. But I do think I will acknowledge that it being a real psychopath, a non-fantasy, non-supernatural killer in a supernatural universe is really cool.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be involved in the Pooniverse, which we know the Pooniverse is supernatural. We know Bambi is going to be supernatural. Pinocchio is going to be supernatural. Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and them are going to be supernatural. But this guy is just a fucking nutcase with a messed up face and a knife. And it's so cool.
It's not, it's not obvious if he makes it at the end.
No, we don't know. We have our theories. And again, this is spoiler talk, so we're loud. We have our theories that it's going to be Captain Hook that's going to stand in for Neverland Nightmare. Because Captain Hook is the anti-hero that pulls Peter Pan away. You never see Peter Pan die. And the ending is left open with a phone call. So we know that this movie, the story is most likely going to continue, especially because the movie is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And whether or not it does well, it did well on a theatrical release. It will do well on a streaming because people are going to get the word. The word's going to spread that this is great.
So you were talking about how they haven't started filming the Avengers.
No, they want to start.
So it's funny because on Letterboxd they already have people credited in it, and they have the actress who did Tinkerbell part of the Pooniverse. So I don't know if someone's just like, these are all the people that have been in the movie so far, and then added them to it.
Yeah, who knows?
Or if they're gonna bring her back.
Well, the director was saying that he wants the Pooniverse Assemble movie out by Halloween. They're not going to guarantee that because there's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. But he's like, we're going to go quick on it. We're working on it. So they're probably, as we speak, they're probably working today on like things, right?
How they make the supernatural part for Peter Pan, because Peter Pan has no supernatural pieces to it. But people that die in the movie are supposed to be in
Neverland. Or the Dark Place, yeah?
No, the people that died in Peter Pan's movie
are supposed to be in
Assemble.
So it could be a prequel thing, or it could be maybe,
or they just bring them back.
Yeah, or maybe there's more to. Maybe Peter really does have magical powers. I mean, there was one scene in Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare where he's looking at the wall. This was my favorite part of the entire movie, easily. He's looking at the wall and he's seeing Peter Pan dance around, and he starts to levitate, and then Tinkerbell comes in. And it cuts to Tinkerbell's POV, and he's just standing there staring at the wall. And so like the what you infer from that is that he's tripping balls on drugs.
Yeah.
And he's thinking he's levitating because he's a psychopath. But again, everything in this film as package tells you that there's no supernatural elements to any of the characters in the movie. We don't know what's going to happen in Pooniverse Assemble.
It's so good, though.
It is. And again, I will reiterate what I've already said. The concept of it being in a universe where supernatural 1000% exists, and them having this isolated true crime serial killer situation, it's so good. Yeah. And the way that they just it's executed flawlessly. It's just, please, if you haven't seen it and you're listening to spoilers now, still see it.
Yeah, you definitely should.
It's a great
There's
film.
one. So this is my question, and Doug doesn't have an answer. I haven't really looked to see if there's one online because I'm afraid to type these words in Google. But there's a scene where you're like, oh, here's the gratuitous nudity. He starts he's changing his clothes, and his like whole butt comes out. And then when he turns around, he's a Ken doll. There's no pieces down there.
He's a eunuch.
At all.
He's a eunuch.
Why?
In the reviews I read on Letterboxd, everybody kind of was just like, thought it played into the whole why he's so traumatized and messed up. And it basically, I think one of the things is, somebody mentioned in a review, and I can see this, is that they don't want anyone out there to interpret there being any sort of pedophilia, any sort of like sexual drive behind his abuse of children. Like, and I'll tell you this much: there's they don't pull any punches on children. Like, children do not have plot armor. A lot of kids die in this film.
But it is different than Terrifier, like they don't show.
Yeah,
them.
It's not. It's more. This is what happened, right? And so so I think that one person mentioned that they think maybe the eunuch piece is just to remove the conversation about whether this is driven by child predation.
I like that.
Or sex
that
trafficking.
Makes me feel better.
Right? It's not a sex trafficking.
No.
Thing. It could be analogous of sex trafficking. It could be the social commentary they're running with, but that's not Peter Pan's motivation at all. He's a eunuch. He has no motivation beyond getting children in Neverland. Oh my gosh, he's so creepy. So I hope he didn't die, or I hope that he comes back for Pooniverse, because I want more of that character. I want more.
Although I would really like on the Pooniverse, the Avengers-esque poster, does it show him? It shows Hook.
It shows Hook, and it shows Wendy at
and Wendy's grave.
Tombstone, yeah.
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 Very cool.
All right, January, W first half. I'm really glad. See, we wanted to talk about the films in order. We're so lucky Neverland Nightmare was a banger, because that's how we closed off the first half of the month. So really looking forward to talking to you guys again next week. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already checked out the socials link below, I stream on twitch.tv 5 to 6 days a week at twitch.tv/runningman. YouTube videos will be posted on the same channel as the podcast, youtube.com/runningmanplays. Check us out at social media, Giza Britanniza everywhere. You can follow her. She runs the social media accounts for Slashily Ever After. She does a tremendous job with her Instagram posts and her TikToks, so go check out her stuff. Thank you guys for coming on this journey with us. And that's where you say the thing at the end.
Oh, and they live Slashily Ever After.
Bye.
Bye.